She is an activist and actress who stars in NBC's Superstore starting its second season on September 22nd, America Ferrera. Hey. What a great pleasure to meet you. How you doing?
Likewise, I'm
Sit
good.
right down there. Okay, America, now you are a surrogate for Hillary Clinton.
That's
What is
right.
a surrogate? I know what a supporter is, but I'm not sure what a surrogate is.
Well, I'm a supporter, and I just travel the country into different cities and just talk about why I support Hillary.
And you were with her from the beginning. I mean, you're not like, oh, I was for this guy, and now it's Hillary. This is your girl.
Yeah, I was out campaigning in 2008 as well.
So you watched the Republican convention?
I sure
It
did.
must have been
yeah.
hard to
Well,
watch
I listened, and I could only take it in like small doses.
I am the same way. It
Yeah.
was hard to take. But would you care to offer a rebuttal to the people at the convention who said that she should be locked up?
How much time do we have?
Plenty.
You know, what I came away with was, first and foremost, a stomach ache, because it makes me physically ill. You know, it does.
Sure.
It makes me sick to think about the lies.
They're applauding you getting sick.
The lies. Yeah, thank you. Lies, and
True.
a lot of lies. And one issue that I care deeply about, because I happen to be Latino American, is immigration. And he could not have been more wrong. He's just wrong. He's wrong.
Specifically.
About the fact that immigrants are criminals.
Right.
Where, in fact, because there are such things as facts.
Yes.
In fact, criminals are criminals. Sorry.
See, he's got you.
He's got me.
Yeah, right.
Immigrants are less. Immigrants, undocumented or documented,
course.
are less likely to commit crimes.
You know who drives perfectly? Latinos. Because they don't want to fuck with the police. Everybody else in LA drives like a maniac.
I met a woman
You
in
get
Arizona.
behind a truck with a lawnmower, never, ever does anything wrong. It's true.
That's stereotyping, though.
Maybe so, but it's true. I
I met a woman in Arizona who doesn't play her music because if she plays it too loud, and she's an American, documented, she's like, if they pull me over, I will go crazy and they will shoot me.
Well,
I don't play my music.
Then we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I just said.
Yes, exactly.
You're stereotyping.
Yeah, but he was wrong about criminals, and he was wrong about the economy. I mean...
Okay, so here's the thing. Donald Trump is getting 0% of the black vote, which is really hard to do. To get 0, to get 100% of people to
Well, that's
agree
what
on
happens when you don't
Right.
disavow the Ku Klux Klan.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But he's getting, I think in Pennsylvania and Ohio, he's getting 0%, and he's nearing that nationally. But not so with the Hispanic vote. I would think they would hate him even more. Who are these Hispanic people who are for Trump?
Well, here's the thing, I think, is that Latino Americans are Americans, which people don't want to believe. But we are Americans.
Your name is American.
And my name, and I have a pin.
Yeah, in case we forgot your name.
In case you forgot. Latino Americans are Americans, and they care about the same things that all Americans care about. So, of course, there's going to be a portion of the Latino American population that is angry and sees in Donald Trump a channel for that anger.
Right.
But by no means is there even close to equanimity or a majority of Latinos who are out there for Trump. What we've seen in the nation and what we've seen...
It's just odd to me that there's any.
And the good news, it's odd to me too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
But the good news is that in California, we've seen record registration among Latinos in this in the state.
So I see that
and for the Democrats, not for the Republicans.
Yes. I see that the Never Bernie people are showing up in Philadelphia next week, and I'm wondering what your message is.
You mean Never Hillary? Never Bernie?
No, I'm sorry, did I say Never Bernie?
Yeah.
I mean Bernie or bust.
Bernie or bust.
Bernie or
Yeah,
bust
yeah.
people are showing. Bernie or bust people, right, thank you, are showing up in Philadelphia. What is your message to the Bernie folks who can't seem to get on board with Hillary?
I think it's...
You know, there's only 2 choices on the menu. That's what I say to them. Do you really want to eat poison vomit?
Yeah. Look, I think that I think that it's reckless, and I think that there's a political reality. And one of these two people is going to be the next president of the United States, most likely.
Right.
And to sit around and not make a choice
definitely.
is to make a choice. You are making a choice by sitting around and not getting on board. And not only registering, I mean, I'm sure Bernie supporters are registered to vote, but it's not enough anymore for us to be registered and show up ourselves. We need to register our friends, our families, our communities. And you know, it's hilarious that every election, every presidential election, 2 months before the election, everybody's like, how do we turn out the minority vote? You're too little too late. Like, every year is an election year. And you can't just show up to communities that are under-resourced and undereducated about civics, and that there is an active campaign against voter rights in this country.
It's hard to vote in America.
It's hard to vote.
I mean, we don't have it like a lot of countries do on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
And you know who's making it harder?
Of course we do.
The Republicans.
Right.
I mean,
that's how they win elections.
Right.
They cheat. They cheat.
And I just want to say, like,
that's how they win. They cheat.
And I just want to say,
I have to give you guys more credit than you apparently give your own people. You can vote. You can vote 30 days in advance in most states, and it is simple.
But
you can vote absentee ballot.
It's not simple.
I'm the only one here that's been on the ballot, right? The only one at the table who's had his name on the ballot. I can promise you. I'll tell you this. I will be glad to talk to any of your friends or your friends and explain to them how easy it is. You guys are just doing this rhetoric because it stirs up your
Jack, in Maricopa County in Arizona, they reduced after the Supreme Court ruling of gutting the
Voting Rights Act.
They took the dead people off the rolls.
No. They reduced the number of polling places from 400 to 60.
Yeah.
That's why there were lines. That's why people.
In Ohio, they reduced early voting. In Ohio, they
don't want them voting.
I don't know why you guys can't give your people more credit. They can get to the polls. This is a rhetorical thing.
Can I say something?
And I want to say this. When we talk about lies,
the rhetorical lie is that there's such a thing as voter fraud.
There's voting rights acts in 17 states that preserve and protect the rights of the minorities. Absolute. Not just in 17 states, but in other counties and cities like Chicago and parts of New York City.
I really want to speak to this because I think that this is the lie and the lack of nuance that confuses people, because it promotes the lie that Latinos and people of color don't show up because they're lazy and they don't care. That is a lie.
I'm not the one saying it.
Don't show up because they have minimum wage jobs that they have to take a day off to travel 20 miles to get to the nearest government office to get an ID that costs them money.
I promise you, I've been on the ballot before. I've represented a rural area.
What does that have to do with this?
Because I know how it works. I know how it works.
Let's just not pretend. It has nothing to do with voting in the ballot.
Let's not pretend that
you're saying that there's everywhere in the country there's absentee ballots.
There is. It is very simple.
The one
in America.
Let's not pretend. The political apathy in this country is high.
That's true.
And the reason the Brits ended up leaving Europe, the biggest own goal ever shot in the history of a developed country, is because people under 24 didn't show up. Like 34% of them bothered. They didn't care.
Especially
in America, you want to see a bad outcome in this country? If people don't give a damn. And that is easily an outcome we can see in November.
Boy, everybody's fired up tonight.
And I want to say one thing to that.
This is good.
I want to say one thing to that.
I promise you, I'm going to get you to Georgia and show you how easy it is.
I'm going to talk.
It is not.
This is really important. This is a historic election, right? We're either going to elect the first female president or the last president, period. People need to be a part of this. People need to be a part of this. Donald Trump, it is a non-trivial chance. There's a non-zero chance that he does something insane.